You don't give a fuck whether you land or not, just let him go. Don't worry about it, you're gonna be a shitty fight, but you gotta let punches go. Last round. You can't wait until they get, if you miss it, bang, go right back. And don't take 30 seconds to start another fight.
Alexander, I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody like me. I'm Sonny Liston, I'm Jack Dempsey, there's no one like me. I'm from Nairport, there's no one that can match me. My style is impeccable, my defense is impregnable. Look at that combination. And the turn.
I kept telling him he had no punch, he couldn't hit, he's swinging like a sissy, he's missing, let me see your box. I hadn't started dancing yet. A tremendous sensational first round, and Hearns gets hurt. Hearns got stunned. Hackle was stunned early in the round. Great first round. Incredible. Perhaps one of the best in middleweight history.
That black guy, he hits hard.
Fire!
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Hands of Fire Boxing Talk. I'm your host, writer, and reporter for RealCombatMedia.com, G.Alé Dampierre. And I'm joined by my Ring IQ admin co-host from Philly, Ibn Dawud.
You already know, man. 215, what's up? Let's talk some boxing.
And by way of New York, Julius Fox, now going by his regular Facebook page now. He's switching identities like the transporter. What's going on?
I'm gonna tell y'all why that happened. Matter of fact, I ain't even gonna tell y'all. That's too much. That's promotion. That's free promotion. I'm gonna just let y'all know that Canelo's a bitch, and let's move on.
All right. Well, that's our juicy topic that we're gonna save for the very end. But if you're a subscriber and you're probably wondering where the hell we were last week, don't worry about it. You're asking too many questions. But we're going to just do a brief little skim of the fights that took place, that Boxing Mania is what I called it, December 10th. And I'm just going to skim through some of these fights. Obviously we don't really need to go much in depth about Terrence Crawford beating John Molina. The only real news about him is that he went to jail 3 days later. And Joseph Parker and Andy Ruiz. Joseph Parker ekes out a unanimous decision. I personally didn't see him winning that fight. I felt Andy Ruiz, even though he wasn't active as he should have been, still pulled it off enough for me because Parker really didn't even let out his right hand until about the 8th round.
He was scared of what was going to come back at him because Andy was really getting the better of those exchanges. So, he didn't want to he didn't want to let that right hand go, because something would have came back at him if he did. Andy Ruiz's counter was looking real sweet most of that fight.
It kind of made you wonder, if there actually was some type of pop to Andy Ruiz, obviously, maybe it's something worth respecting, to keep it in the holster like that. But,
especially when it's off a counter, too, that's the one that you don't see coming. So even if it's not the heaviest punch, it's going to stun you a little bit because you ain't know that was going to come back at you when you let your hands go. So
yeah.
That shit kind of kept Joseph Parker behind that jab the majority of that fight.
Yeah. And
all I got to say is I hope that Joseph Parker, they said that they want to unify with Wilder, and I would like to see Wilder get that fight next. And I really hope he gets that fight next and Povetkin cheated. So, I think that's over with.
Jesus
Wilder.
Christ. And
it's over for that.
Let's get this unification popping.
And that's another one we'll have to definitely
closer to Wilder AJ, and that's what I really want to see.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about that later. Also, to the UK fights that took place, Anthony Joshua took care of business against Eric Molina. Drummer Boy got drummed up on.
He really did.
The only thing to really take out for this fight, I think it was kind of business as usual. But, people are going to try to either give him a little bit more credit than he needs, but then there's also the same people that aren't going to put much credit at all. My only thing I really try to take out of this fight, as long as he's looking better as a fighter, and he did. He looked smarter, and he looked.
He did. It's a styles-make fight situation. Like my interpretation of that fight was Wilder mixes it up, so that because he mixes it up, that gives Molina an opportunity to get into the fight. And AJ was going to sharpshoot him, So Molina wasn't going to have that opportunity to get into that fight. He wasn't going to have that chance because he landed some good shots on Wilder. He really did. Like, he had him clean a couple of times, and Wilder looked a little worse for wear, but that's because Wilder was mixing it up with him. That was in the middle of them exchanges.
Yeah, and that was part of
Joshua.
That was part of
he
the
fought behind that jab.
And that was part of the intrigue, really, or at least the only intrigue going into this fight was the fact that this was one of the fights that Deontay Wilder had a harder time with, even though he did eventually get the knockout.
Right.
But Ibn, we've talked through lengthy discussion. I think we actually had a whole afternoon where we literally talked about this fight, and like I said, for me, Anthony Joshua, as long as he looked fluid, because for me, my only criticism really for him was the bulking up and the stiffness.
He looks a little smoother.
And he looked a lot smoother. He actually was a little bit less toned than he was. Like I said, he was in a Dillian White fight, and he looked relaxed.
He's
you know what I mean?
More
He was
composed.
Yeah.
He's getting comfortable. He's getting comfortable at the A level. He was looking good. Like I said, man, I want to see him fight Wilder, man. This Klitschko fight coming up, it's a great fight. This is another reason why I want to see Parker right now. I want to see AJ fight Parker right now, because if AJ fights Parker this year, and then those two fight this year, then what you have is that's the stage. Now AJ and Wilder need to fight right now, because they both just came off of beating somebody where you could say, okay, let's get it in.
Yeah.
Wilder's had his title a little bit longer than AJ had his. A lot of the criticisms towards Wilder was who he faced. He had stepped up to Povetkin blew that. He's beaten Stavern. If you go in here and you beat Parker, I couldn't think of nobody else that you could even think of saying that he needs to go through. Even though it's just...
I dig it, Evan. I dig it, but it's just that at the end of the day, I can't look at the number of Wilder's professional bouts and sneeze at that shit. He got damn near 40 professional fights, right?
Yep.
And that's what starts the criticism that, like, yo, you got 40 professional fights, and motherfuckers still got questions about you. Motherfuckers still, like, basically waiting to see you. I can't say who. I'm saying who ducked Wilder? Who ducked him? Who said, nah, I don't want to fight him?
Okay, then let me say this. This is what I'm going to say. Technically, you can't say nobody ducking, right? But this is what I got to say. You always hear fighters, not just fans, you hear, even I've heard it for Deontay Wilder, this, that, whatever, right? Here's my thing. He's got the WBC title. How long has that been like the most revered belt around the world? You mean to tell me that this guy is suspect and ain't nobody that took it?
That's
see, this
when it came
is
to
the thing.
the second, we had to go through a whole bunch of crap, and the man, he accepted all of the crap. He was over there. What happened?
That's true.
That's true.
So,
Well,
there was nothing you can say about him, because you can't say that he wasn't trying to beat these dudes in there. He got his belt, and he's.
But you can't deny. But you can't deny that it's unanswered questions. When you looking at Johan Duapis, when you looking at Eric Molina, when you looking at, I actually think Artur Spilka is a pretty good fighter, but that's hindsight, because going into the fight, you know what I'm saying, he seemed like just another who the fuck.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, when you got that many, because really he showed up in that fight, and my hat goes off to him. I really want to see him come back, fight some of these guys, because I don't even know if he came back yet. But that's hindsight. And what I'm saying is, when you got that many fights, right, professional fights, a lot of people like Wante, shout out to Wante, and he made a valid point that Wilder's really learning on the job, because he don't got the same kind of pedigree that, say, Luis Ortiz got.
That's true.
Or Anthony Joshua got.
Fair.
And that's cool. I respect that. It's just that I have to give
AJ was a late bloomer too. AJ was a late
Well, guys, I don't want to get too caught up in the sidebars, because we still got to go through last week's fight. I'm trying to get us a little caught up. So, but the one thing I did want to make sure that really the main purpose of me trying to get us caught up was because I won't shy away from being wrong ever. That's it's how we learn as human beings. We can admit when we're wrong, and we learn from it, right? I was very dismissive of this Dillian White versus Derek Chisora fight. I really just thought it was just a bunch of hoopla. That the English media just always gets caught up with just little controversies. It's I mean, look, they're the product of, Naseem Hamed. So, of course, they're going to just, they just love the gala of everything. And that's really what I thought this was, and then, even this the day before the fight, Chisora's throwing a fucking table, basically disqualifying himself, or at least trying to. The fight almost didn't happen because of this. And lo and behold, man, these guys put down probably one of the best heavyweight fights of the year. Dillian White pulled out the.
2016 has been, man. It's been the year of when you ain't think somebody was going to show up, they fucking showed up.
And
Chisora showed up, and we ain't think he was going to show up, but he did. And before that, if you go back and you watch that Curtis Stevens fight, De La Rosa showed up when nobody thought he was going to show. Like, I thought Stevens was going to just wash him and keep it bopping. And I thought Dillian White was going to just wash Chisora and keep it bopping.
And Dillian White did end up coming with the, a split decision. I personally thought Chisora actually did enough, which was, funny enough. I actually thought Dillian White was going to win the fight. And I guess I ended up being right, but I still, who I ended up picking to, or at least who I thought won, was the opposite. But I just want to give that moment of credit there because, I was just so dismissive of it, and for what it produced, I definitely had to acknowledge that.
It was definitely that was one of the better fights in the heavyweight division this year.
I would like to see who he can get in the ring as a result of that fight, and where that puts him in the standings.
See, it's funny. The commentary, the people who were commentating the fight were of course, obviously with Sky Sports, they're really just giving a slow suck job of any English fighter really that was featured on this damn card. But this was one of the moments of neutrality where they were kind of mentioning that like these guys are pretty much like not world class, but the best of their country. So they're just, I would say, just about the B level of their,
Well, that's an interesting thing to say because I kind of think of Dillian White as being world class. I'd like to see him in a fight with Artur Spilka, for example. Or I'd like to see him in a fight with Eric Molina. Because I think Dillian White...
he has to win one of those fights to be world class. I agree with Sky Sports.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I want to see him in there with some of these guys because I think Dillian White... I dare say this. Dillian White versus Joseph Parker would be a fascinating fight to watch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Fascinating fight. Go ahead.
Well, that's just to wrap things up. I mean, that's where... you would probably wonder where, if you are Dillian White's team, like, where does he go from here? Does he still try to take a crack at, at a world title, or at least a pathway to one? It seems like he seems like he has the goods, but I still don't see him even necessarily, really beating, like, I would say a number one top contender or something like that. But it's not like he shouldn't, not take a crack at it, like, why not? You're in the heavyweight division of all things.
Well, let's put it this way. If we use a retrospect, right, of Joseph Parker versus Andy Ruiz to Dillian White versus Chisora, we can say wholeheartedly that Dillian White's been in more wars than Joseph Parker has.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He's been in more wars. That Anthony Joshua fight, even though he ain't win that fight, he really was in that fight.
See,
and he was giving Joshua a hard time.
You know what? Well, you know what I really think really gives Joseph Parker that, the notoriety that he has is that he's like the big fish in a small pond. Like, he's the shit in New Zealand. Like, well how much is that to say, really? You know what I mean? It's kind of like
and then I don't take that from him because, at the end of the day, how many championship heavyweights have they produced in the greatest scheme of things? So if he's the big man over there and he's generating the buzz, I can respect it. I can respect it. Like, I ain't mad at him if he the man over there. It's just that looking at him, I don't know that he could beat Dillian White. I don't know how y'all feel about it, but I don't know.
I would say it's probably one of the more competitive fights in the heavyweight division. I could say that. But let's go down to the rest of these fights, just so we can get a little bit more current. But I had to mention this fight, even though it didn't mean shit. Callum Smith versus Luke Blackledge. Callum Smith won by TKO, and Blackledge ended up being hospitalized, had to be carried out the ring. And the reason why I'm bringing up this fight is because I am so sick and tired of these, and I highlighted this, that it is UK, and I know a lot of the UK guys, they kind of came at me and said, hey, this happens everywhere, but I said, this happened with Eubank Jr. too, where we overmatched part-time fighters are just really fill-ins just to load up a card. And at this point, like like I said, these Sky Sports commentators just giving a nice slow head for all these fighters, telling them, oh, he's great, he's world class, he's this and that. Then what the fuck is he doing fighting an engineer?
I mean, consider it. I mean, look at who Luis Ortiz. Luis Ortiz went from fighting guys like Tony Thompson and Bryant Jennings to fighting a guy like David Allen, who was 9-1, dog. And he looked. A little side note: he lost that one loss he has came at the hands of Dylan White. But he's 9-1. You couldn't find somebody better for Luis Ortiz. Like, I ain't mad that he fought him, because I know what they do, and they trying to keep Luis Ortiz busy. They trying to keep him out there, keep him moving. So I'm not mad.
Yeah, but my only point that I'm trying to make here is like, they're really going to get someone, well, I can't say seriously hurt, because we're kind of past that point already. Fucking Blackledge really or Blackwell can't even spar anymore without getting a concussion anymore. Like that's it's terrible. So it's truly disgusting that they can continue to let this happen, and to put this on a big stage as they are is, for me, just distasteful. Like I was like just sickened by watching this. Like the 20 minutes it took just to get Blackledge out the ring, it was terrible. And they need to step this up. Like it's ridiculous. And if they can acknowledge that Callum Smith is this world-class great fighter, then put him in at the very least with a B-level fighter. Like, come on.
Yeah, a top 20. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a top 10, but a top 20. Ultimately, they're scraping the bottom of the barrel so that they can put on display all the things that a fighter does well. But it's overkill. These are seriously overmatched guys. And that's why you're seeing what you're seeing. Now, I'm not going to say that that's necessarily something that's exclusive to the UK, but there does seem to be a constant.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that I want to make sure that I'm highlighting that. Like, I'm not saying that this is exclusive, but you have a record just throughout the year of this. I mean, look at who Rigondeaux fought when he was in the UK. You know what I mean? So it's I'm just saying it's a little. I'm just saying it's a consistent theme here, and I'm not going to just play dumb to it. Anyway,
I mean, I agree that there is a constant that needs to be addressed. I'll say that if we go into 2017 and we keep seeing the same shit, they need to just, they need to have some reform or something over there. You can't keep throwing these regular guys in there with these world-class fighters, man. You're gonna get somebody killed.
And it just goes hand in hand. It's like, geez, like how much are you going to talk up this one guy who I'm not even really that sure is really the best in his division, and then just to serve him, basically a full platter just to knock the fuck out. Like you can't give me both. You can't say he's one of the best in the world and then give him a shit fighter. You know what I mean? Like, don't.
Exactly.
That's disrespectful.
Yeah, I mean, it's oxymoron. It's a walking contradiction. Like, he's the best in the world, and here he is fighting the guy who works at Pathmark. I don't know if they have Pathmarks in the UK, but
exactly.
Matter of fact, he works at Aldi. I think he got Aldi in the UK.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Aldi. Get it right. All right. So, and the last thing we're going to talk about just for December 10th was we got to discuss it, guys. Jermell Charlo getting the knockout over Julian Williams, TKO in the 5th round, who boxed really well for me. But as Ibn, we discussed, Julian, I think we discussed this as all three of us did.
We talked about it. He was going for the gusto. Julian was really going for the gusto, but he was doing a little bit too much, and he got caught.
Ibn, your thoughts?
Not a lot of. Not a lot of other ways to put it.
Ibn, I mean, this is a Philly dude, so I mean, not that I'm trying to put this entirely on your hands, but you know, we talked about this too. It's just that it seemed like here how old is Julian? Well, J-Rock is he seems about my age, really, like 26, 27, right?
Yeah.
And it just didn't seem like he had the maturity to realize what his advantages were to keep him in this fight.
Well, he wasn't. I mean, I'm gonna put it like this: he wasn't poised. You know what I'm saying? Like, he went for it, and I'm not going to downplay him for going for it. I'm gonna just say that he was doing a little bit too much. You know what I'm saying? He got beat to the punch. That first knockdown, he got beat to the punch, and then it's kind of like Jamal found his rhythm. Because if you look at that knockdown off of that counter uppercut, he kind of just sat back. He used his height. He deflected those two shots from Julian, and he just came right over with that counter uppercut. It's like he found his rhythm, and Julian was doing a bit too much. Like, you got to slow down a little bit. I mean, now, I don't know if his corners told him to do that, but he should have. You know, and it is what it is.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not, like,
they were
knock him for going for
They were telling him to go to the body, which was, it seemed like almost more or less of a panic because of the knockdown in the first or second round that he got on the jab. Which, I mean, I couldn't necessarily tell if he was actually hurt, you know, because just because he fell in sections, you know what I mean? And it wasn't like a necessary.
If you look at how it happened, well, he threw a jab and got met with a jab. So I don't think he was hurt by that first knockdown. I don't think he was hurt.
But he did panic. He did panic because of that.
He panicked, you know, because it's like, oh, well, you didn't expect to get put down that soon, if at all, you know. So he went into panic mode, and he ended up overcompensating.
Yeah. And eventually, you know, and this knockout kind of came like following after a nice part of the fight where he was just he slipped like 5 punches in a row from Charlo.
Yep.
And I was thinking, like, man, just keep it up. I mean, as long as you can. And again, it just goes to the maturity of just knowing what your attributes are and what you're favored in going into this fight. It's almost like I thought he must have thought, you know, Charlo as an equal all around. You know, he thought he could match for power. And basically, and he definitely couldn't, especially when he landed that right hand immediately after the round.
That Jamal had on him. That's the one thing I was sure that Jamal's the bigger puncher in the fight. So Julian's really got to be careful, and that's part of the reason that I couldn't edge Julian to win the fight. I just wanted him to win the fight because that would have meant a complete overhaul over the kind of fights we might see in the division between all the titleists. You know, that Jamal retained that belt, and he's not going to fight his brother, and they're not going to fight Lara, and Canelo's not going to fight any of them, so it's just another party with him, nobody went in.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Exactly. Wait, just to do a quick check. Eben, are you there? Been quiet. Did we lose Eben?
I ain't heard Eben. Yeah, I think we lost Eben for a minute. I don't know where he went.
Yeah, he probably, that shit's too good. I told him I was going to put him on his ass. I told him. Anyway, we got to just keep it going because we're still going live.
Show must go on.
So, the fight I think I last minute discussed was Julio Cesar Chavez. Wasn't really worth discussing other than the fact that it was a lighter weight. But it turns out it within the week it turned out to be a little bit more relevant than we initially thought. But we'll save that later on because that brings us, we're finally up to date now with this past weekend's fight, which was December 17th. Bernard Hopkins faced off with Joe Smith Jr. And what was supposed to be... Wait, was that Ibn? Oh.
That was Ibn.
Oh, wait, we got him back. He's back to life.
I had a phone issue, guys. Karma. Bernard got knocked out of the ring. And to me, it was symbolized of him being knocked out of boxing.
Yeah, that was symbolic in a way. But let's just talk about this, because the reason why at least as far as the fight itself goes, was because I think at this point just about everybody's seen what eventually happened. Bernard Hopkins getting knocked out the ring, the crying Jordan memes, all that. But my thing was, guys, did you guys see that Bernard Hopkins was, or at least by some judges, or one of the judges, winning the fight, and the other two, one had it a draw, and the other one had it for Smith. As I was watching this fight, I kind of thought Smith was, winning it a little bit handily. I think at most I gave Bernard Hopkins maybe 2 rounds up to this point.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not going to split hairs over this one, because this isn't a very contentious subject to me, given the fact that this is part of boxing culture. Sometimes a guy just fights one fight, and that one fight is one fight too many. That's what happened to Bernard. I'm not going to downplay Joe Smith's victory, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people had him winning a fight. They probably picked Bernard to win, odds are.
Very strange.
Joe Smith showed up. Let's not shit on Joe. Joe's just doing what he's got to do. He beat the man in front of him. It just so happens that the man in front of him was 51 and hadn't had a fight since 2014. It is what it is. Like, it's not contentious to me. It is what it is. I'm not mad at Joe. I want to see Joe fight Sullivan Barrera, or to a better be, somebody who's a live animal in that division.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about just like the lasting effects from this fight, which is really, I guess, Julius, you kind of got on it a little bit. Basically, the 2 things I really wanted to highlight from this fight was the fact that Hopkins couldn't even give, Joe Smith the credit of the actual knockout. He's still claiming that he was pushed out of the ring. And here's the 2 things. This is how like he's battling, like just dealing with it, is because not only was he pushed out the ring, he also hurt his ankle after falling on his head. Which was like,
it's a little embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, and like I was telling Ibn a little bit earlier, I'm not sure if he actually made out what I was saying, but it was like, if that's the case, like how do you like fall on your head and hurt your ankle, like unless you're like Christopher Reeves, falling off a horse, and maybe that might have just been the tingling he felt after falling on his head, because honestly, that's what I was looking at.
It could have been his position in the ring, maybe as he was falling, it bent a certain way. I mean, I don't know that he didn't hurt his ankle. I'm just saying that he wasn't pushed. You go back, you watch that knockout, it ain't push shit. You got knocked out the fucking ring. I'm not mad at you. I don't think it's as bad as other people are making it out. I don't think it's anywhere near as contentious as people are making it out to be. But not only is he 51, he hadn't fought since 2014. So, a lot of us, including myself, figured, I'm comfortable picking Bernard because it's Bernard Hopkins. He's going to go in there, he's going to do what he always does. That's how I felt. But that's not what happened. Okay. Well, it's kind of self-explanatory. It is what it is. I'm not going to take nothing away from Joe Smith. He won the fight. Fair is fair. Let's not start worrying about geriatric Bernard all of a sudden, because we weren't saying that before the fight. Exactly. We really shouldn't. We shouldn't say that afterwards.
It almost seemed like you were against the grain to even really give Joe Smith a chance, just because, you look at these two just next to each other. I'm like, holy shit, he's definitely the bigger guy, and we know he has at least some type of pop, because he's knocked out, Fonfara. So, and I think people were kind of almost just really went into this fight just based off nostalgia.
Yeah, honestly, because a lot of us are just using hindsight. We're using hindsight to use that as a barometer for how this fight will play out. But like I said, it's when it comes to that, it's a little bit hard to converse about it, because I feel that if that was the Bernard that fought Sergey Kovalev, he might have had a better chance. He might have had a better shot. But reality is he's 51 years old and he hadn't fought in 2 years. So to try to dismiss that as part of the reason that he performed the way that he did isn't realistic. This guy hasn't fought in 2 years. That could affect anybody, whether they're 51 or 21.
Hey,
that would affect anybody. We already seen what happened to Walter.
Exactly. Ibn, you still awake? You good? No.
Ibn going in and out of sleep.
He's in and out. All right, we'll check in on him. It's just kind of like our Oscar the Grouch. We got to catch up. We got to check in on Sesame Street. Just knock on the tin can. But I guess the thing with this fight, some people are kind of as far as really, I guess the meaningful point in this whole fight was really just the fact that it was Bernard Hopkins' last fight. And really, the way it just all went down. I mean, it already started off rocky with the fact that he left brother Nazim Richardson, who basically has been his trainer. It turned out they were having some type of problems. I wasn't actually even too much up on it. Because, I did see certain videos where, he was around when he was giving interviews, which is strange. But the one in particular that I didn't see until after the fight where, he really just kind of just, how can I say, it was a little bit passive-aggressive in the interview. It's just by, getting subtle little hints or little jabs, kind of like the way Mayweather does, when he's talking about somebody, where he's just saying, oh well, y'all know he was in a diaper, right? Wow, he had a stroke and all this shit. As far as why when they asked, why he wasn't in the corner, and he basically tried to put it on Richardson, saying he wasn't physically able to be his partner, rather than where Richardson was coming from, saying that Bernard isn't who he thinks he is anymore. And in a way, it seems like Richardson got the last laugh here. And
Bernard's always been a little bit. A lot of fighters have big egos. I'm not saying that Bernard Hopkins has a huge ego, but he's got an ego. He does, and we saw how that played out with Calzaghe, and we're seeing that again here. Once again, all fuckery aside, all contentions aside, I'm just doing my best to stay objective when it comes to this, because Joe Smith went from being a virtual who the fuck to a serious contender in that division. It's just that, you went from upsetting Fonfara, which left a lot of question marks, to fighting a 51-year-old Bernard Hopkins, and I give him credit for beating him. It's not that. It's just that if it were you and Sullivan Barrera, it's very hard to find a barometer between those two fights to gauge whether or not you could win against a guy like that, because you upset Fonfara. That you kind of just caught him with that punch. I'm not saying it was lucky, but it was in the middle of an exchange. Anything could happen. And here you are fighting Bernard Hopkins, who's on the ass end of his career, and as a betting man, well, I can't say that Joe Smith inspires a hell of a lot of confidence in me to bet on him to win his next fight, depending on who it is. I don't know if he could beat Artur Beterbiev.
And
I don't know if he could beat Sullivan Barrera.
That's why I kind of feel bad for Joe Smith in this situation, is because here he had two great moments in 1 year, in 2016, and we're still questioning on how good he is, or what what level he's at this point. At this point he's living the fucking life. He's out the construction yard. He's done with, well, I don't say he's done with his union, because he's still hooked up with them to shake everybody's hand before he left to head over to L.A. in the Forum where this fight took place. So, that's why I'm kind of on the fence necessarily, because one, it's a feat that no one's ever really done before, even a Sergey Kovalev, and even with Fonfara, Stevenson wasn't able to get rid of Fonfara. So,
the objective view is that those men fought a younger, more active Bernard Hopkins, whereas the Hopkins that Joe Smith fought, and this is just the objective view. I'm not trying to marginalize his victory. I don't want anybody to think that that's what I'm doing, because I'm not. I'm just saying that the Bernard that you fought hadn't fought in 2 years. Forget, don't even bring up the fact that he's 51. We ain't even got to do it. I'll just say that the Bernard you fought wasn't active for, 2 years? Last time you fought a fight was 2014.
Yeah.
And whether you're 51 or 21, if you don't fight in 2 years, well, that's going to have an effect. And a big effect bring the age back in, it'll have an even bigger effect for a 51-year-old man.
Yeah, like I said, it's just a shame, like just to hear the two biggest moments in his career, still slightly in question,
Well, let's just put it this way: what he did to Bernard legitimizes what he did to Fonfara, where we didn't know if is Joe Smith really that big a puncher, or are we just overrating Fonfara? Well, now we know. If we don't know shit else, we know Joe Smith hits hard. We know that.
Yeah, and
I wouldn't want him hitting me.
And just to highlight that, first round he did land 2 really solid shots. One to the head that kind of made Bernard back up a little bit and kind of like he was actually like still for a second, like
Yeah.
Did that hurt or not? And then another one, a nice solid left hook to the body, that again kind of got the same reaction. So I'm with you. I think he unfortunately still has to prove himself with at least another bout. I'm kind of in favor of a Barrera fight just to see how that really turns out. But of course, Max Kellerman, being the fantasy matchmaker he is, suggested Monahan, which would be a close-knit New York fight that that he was interested in as well. I guess he went later on Twitter to say like, hey, let's get it on. So I guess now really 2017 provides the opportunity for Joe Smith to really just to take everything by the horns, really.
Yeah. I mean, the closing thought that I have for Joe Smith is, regardless of what those fights look like, there's nothing to marginalize. You understand? Like, we didn't know who this guy was. We didn't. But for that Fonfara fight, he became a somebody in that Fonfara fight with a question mark attached to their name. Now, he knocked out Bernard Hopkins. Well, he knocked him out of the ring. But he knocked him out of the ring, and you got to respect it. The Bernard Hopkins knockout legitimizes the Fonfara knockout. Because we didn't know if that was some lucky shit. Was that a lucky punch? Well, now we know. Joe Smith hits hard. If we didn't know shit else, we know Joe Smith hits hard.
And now he has to legitimize this knockout. So it's just it's just a domino effect, So part of this,
never-ending story, man.
Just I think this was announced. Was it yesterday? I don't think they were trying to like steal any shine for any fighters on Saturday, but it was announced that Golovkin versus Jacobs has officially been finalized. I've been hearing word about this fight being finalized, literally about a week ago. And just wasn't you can't, as a reporter, you really can't go out and say it, even if no matter how close your connections are, it's nothing's official until the promoter puts out that press release. And we finally got that press release. So Golovkin versus Jacobs will be at the Madison Square Garden, March 18th. And finally, it's here. And it's not that
it's bittersweet for me because I know that if Golovkin beats him, he still won't get any credit.
Oh yeah, well
that's just how I feel about it.
And that's what I was actually going to point out, because I was going to say, does anybody want to call him a can now before while you still have your chance to at least say that you called it before the fight, or we're just going to wait till afterward until we see the actual fight.
This goes out to every asshole that insists that Danny Jacobs is going to upset Golovkin. I'm screenshotting everything. Because somebody has to be held accountable for this bullshit, okay? You know what I'm saying? I think, me personally, I have a very objective view of these fighters. I think Danny Jacobs is actually one of the better fighters in the division. I think he has the best chance, relatively speaking, of any middleweight to upset Golovkin. If we're talking about Jacobs, Saunders, any one of these other guys that are out there, I think Jacobs has a legitimate chance. But I have Gennady Golovkin winning the fight inside of 9 rounds. The point is that Danny Jacobs is a good fighter. So don't act like he's not a good fighter after he loses the fight. Especially if you're the guys who have been advocating that Golovkin doesn't want to fight him. He's always struggling to make a big fight with somebody. He's avoiding the tough challenges. A lot of guys still think he ducked Eubanks, and that is
fucking
asinine to me.
Blasphemy. Really, that doesn't make any type of sense. Because you know what the funny thing is that the same people like you said you're going to be catching on the screenshot, saying that Jacobs is going to win, or the same people who said Lemieux's going to beat Golovkin, and in the build-up, Chris Eubank Jr. is going to beat Golovkin. It's literally it's just the same train ride, just a different caboose, and it's just the same shit.
I mean, honestly, they just want that guy to lose. That's why, I mean, if we do view each other's content, and I know that Georgie's heard me say this, and I'll say it here. A lot of guys just want him to lose. It's not about being a fan of the other guy on the other end of that ring. It's just that they want Golovkin to lose, and they are willing to back anyone, Eubank, Saunders, and now Jacobs, to upset Golovkin. They just want that guy to lose. Point blank, period. They don't even believe the shit they're saying half the time.
No.
You watch the Parag fight, you watch the first Sergio Mora fight, and you tell me how confident you are that Danny's going to win this fight. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's not that I don't think Danny's a skilled fighter. I actually think he's a very skilled fighter. I'd bet on Danny to beat Billy Joe Saunders. I'd bet on Danny to beat David Lemieux. I'd bet on Danny to beat Curtis Stevens. I think Danny's a very good fighter. I don't take anything away from that guy. But realistically speaking, this is the guy that got caught coming inside on Sergio Mora, and Sergio Mora don't even hit that hard.
No.
You know what I'm saying? I think he's got like 9 knockouts or something like that. Like, seriously, this guy's not a power puncher.
No.
He's not even...
Not at all. Not at all. And he was one of my when he came out of the contender, he was kind of one of those fighters I was like really, kind of big on, even though he I said, presented no power at all though, which was frustrating as all hell because, he was always equalized with whatever skill he had.
Exactly. It's like I don't want to be one of those guys who talks about a professional fighter in a disrespectful context. So that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just saying that, let's be real. Sergio Mora is not a power puncher.
No.
But he was able to knock Danny Jacobs down. You know what I'm saying? Danny got overzealous. He went to let his hands go. He had Sergio on the ropes. Sergio caught him. So if Sergio can catch him, you're telling me that Golovkin can't hurt this guy? That's all I'm saying. Be objective. I don't think Danny's a bad fighter in the least bit. I do think he's a world-class fighter. I don't have him winning the fight. If he upsets the plans, hey, more power to him.
Exactly.
You don't go in there to lose. I'm just saying that I got Golovkin winning the fight, and because Danny's a good fighter, I will respect the victory.
Yeah, and I'll definitely give him more credit than I think really others actually are. I think people are thinking this is like a 90-10 to 80-20 chance for him winning, or chance for Golovkin honestly winning. But, I'd say this is at the very least 70-30 because it's the approach.
Honestly, at the very least, I got this 60-40. That's how much of I believe Danny Jacobs has a 40% chance at least to win this fight because he's a big puncher. He's got an 88% KO percentage. He's the longer guy in the ring. He has solid boxing ability.
And his approach, and his approach could mess with things. I mean, I think, like I said, you're in the wheelhouse if you're trying to be on the back foot or you're trying to, skirt around because one of the best thing that Golovkin does is cut off the ring. So if you're actually going to try to make him back up, I mean, and all power to you if you can actually can.
Exactly, and we know that Danny Jacobs is coming into this fight with a lot of firepower, the same kind of firepower that David Lemieux had, but he doesn't have the issues that Lemieux has. He doesn't need to be all the way inside to be effective. Danny can fight a smart fight. Ultimately, I think this is going to be a good fight. I think Danny Jacobs is going to make a fight out of this, but I got him getting, I got Golovkin getting him out of there inside of 9 rounds, no more.
And to add to that, he definitely has a more solid boxing pedigree than Lemieux did as well. To give credit though, and I'm just bringing up certain talking points just so we can have something to rebuttal it, was people are going to try to say now, or at least to come at other fans and say that well, you guys were saying Golovkin, or I'm sorry, that Jacobs was too afraid to make the fight happen, and now it is like so. Kind of like an aha moment. But for me, that never. I had a little go at Danny Jacobs, and it was more or less because of what he was asking for and not realizing what he actually brought to the table to make himself to demand what he was as far as money goes. And with me saying that, I didn't mention part of this fight being official, that it is on pay-per-view. Why is it on pay-per-view? It's because of that extra money that Danny Jacobs demanded. So
therein lies another issue, and that's another testament to the hypocrisy of modern boxing fans. A lot of guys advocated that Danny should get 40%, even though he's not holding any other world titles. He's not holding, a WBC world title or IBF or WB. He's not holding one of those. He's holding a lesser version of the WBA title. So I don't know where guys got that he should get 40%. Nevertheless, in order for him to get more money, this is going to have to be a pay-per-view fight. And a lot of these guys that were advocating that Danny get 40% are going to stream the fight.
They're now complaining because that it's on pay-per-view. It's like, what the fuck are you asking for here?
Hey, where the fuck did you want the money to come from out of their ass? Like, the money's got to come from somewhere. You guys wanted Danny to get more fucking money. Well, how the fuck else is he going to get it?
And on top of it, this is a PBC fighter. So, it's they're just against it, all of it. Like I said, man, boxing fans are fickle. You can't do do anything right for some of these fans.
Pretty much. So, I mean, it's another testament because a lot of fights back in the day, they settled arguments. If you really go, and it's not even that long ago. It wasn't that long ago. But the modern fight fan can watch a guy get his ass kicked, and they'll still make excuses after the shit. It's like, what the fuck, dog? Like, so when I see the modern hypocrisy these guys got, like, you want Danny to get paid, right? You want him to get paid, then buy this fucking fight. Because that's the only way he's going to get the money that you guys wanted him to get. Yep. You guys wanted him to get that 40%. The money's got to come from somewhere. Ideally, it would be your fucking pocket, since you're the one who wants him to get more money.
And I guess if I could make my my first take on the fight, because we'll definitely be talking about this in the build-up. You said you see Golovkin winning it within 9. I say Golovkin TKOs under 7 rounds, just because the combat that's going to just be initiated, I feel like off the get, and with the way that both of these guys fight, it's not going to last long. So I see it that way.
Well, to add to that, you see, Danny likes to let his hands go. He likes those rumble sessions.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to come out guns blazing those first 2 rounds. So I think he's going to be cautious, at least in the early portions of the fight. But Golovkin's going to find his rhythm, and he's going to get him out of there. If Danny doesn't bring the fight to him, Golovkin's going to bring the fight to Danny, in which case he'll get him out of there no more than 9 rounds.
Yeah. That's I don't know. All right. Well, you know what? You could bargain to make it 8. How about that? Just to work it out. But
let's just say 8 to 9 rounds.
Yeah.
I can't see it going past that. If this thing goes the distance, I would be shocked.
Oh, very. I think Golovkin would be shocked. I don't what the fuck is a 12th round?
Exactly.
So.
12th round? I didn't know there were 12 rounds.
What's a decision? So here we kind of slightly touched on this in the build-up. Vladimir Klitschko and Anthony Joshua had their official press conference late last week, and this was officially really announced immediately after Anthony Joshua KO'd Eric Molina, and another fight that kind of seems like, in a way, has been overlooked because Deontay Wilder. I'm not too keen on looking that off so much, just because in the coming rematch that was supposed to happen with Tyson Fury, I thought that Vladimir Klitschko would come in to whoop that ass, and I saw him coming to win that fight
because I saw his attitude and his demeanor in that second. I think it's called The Gloves Are Off with Johnny Nelson.
Yeah.
but Vladimir seemed very much. He didn't seem as complacent as he did in the first one. He seemed like he the fire was in his eyes. Like I could see he want to win this fight.
Yeah.
And we know Vladimir's avenged the loss before. And it sounded at least like he knew what he did wrong. He said he didn't let his hands go. So in this fight, he's gonna let his hands go. I think he would have won that fight.
Yeah. So with that being said, I'm not sure if I mentioned in a prior podcast, but this Eric Molina fight actually was supposed to be Vladimir Klitschko. So
it was
really more or less just a formality or a dress rehearsal for this fight.
The only reason he fought Eric Molina was because Vladimir Klitschko, not Anthony Joshua, Vladimir Klitschko was waiting for the WBA to rule on whether they would sanction this fight, for the super title.
Yeah.
He was waiting for them. And in the midst of that process, Joshua's got to fight somebody in the meantime, so he fought Eric Molina since, that would give him a common opponent or another common opponent with Deontay Wilder, because I believe he has one other.
Yeah. And now they're on a collision course to meet at the Wembley Stadium, which I think is going to probably shut Call of Froch up for a good while now. I don't think he's going to be able to talk about it.
It was a good run for Carl, but this thing's going to be huge.
This is gonna pack it out to the I don't even have Raptors, but I'd say to full capacity really. And that place
full capacity. There's going to be guys that still sitting in the parking lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, just wait to hear the roar of the crowd.
Exactly.
Point being, my biggest question for this fight, and I don't know how you feel about it, Georgie, is can Vladimir Klitschko win this fight?
Well, and that's why I wasn't too keen on actually trying to just look off Klitschko, is because on top of the hunger that he had for losing that fight, I think as to reign that long and to lose everything, like he lost all his belts,
Yep.
like he's literally starting from scratch all over again. I think it kind of just puts him back into that, almost officially a contender's mentality, and that's in a way complacency for me. It's really always been a problem for Klitschko. I mean, you reign for that long, and you're just fighting whoever. You're fighting the same way for over years.
Exactly. You're fighting these guys, and these are, and I'm not trying to marginalize his reign in the least bit. It's just that we know how Klitschko likes to employ his jab. Usually against a smaller guy, not a guy with the kind of reach that Anthony Joshua has. Anthony Joshua doesn't need to get inside to touch Vladimir. That makes this a very interesting fight and a very different fight. We saw how that played out with Fury, where Fury doesn't need to play this guy close to the chest to touch him. So it's hard for me, at least, to imagine how Vladimir could win it. Like, how? What are you going to do?
Yeah. And that's the funny thing.
With this fucking kid?
With all that being said, I still see it being trouble for him against Anthony Joshua, just because of what Anthony Joshua is offering. He's of course, like you said, he's got about an inch in reach. And,
he's got about an inch.
And Wilder's not Wilder. Damn it! I keep saying Wilder because look, I'm mentally already overlooking him just alone. But Klitschko only has an inch in height over him. So I mean, and that's on the face of it, I was giving Klitschko a better chance just because of that jab, that fucking notorious jab that pretty much hold his legitimacy as a champion. But with it, the reach not being that big of a difference
you
here.
You just gotta see. You gotta go back. You watch Vladimir's fights. You look at how he employs that jab, and you realize that if you did that with Anthony Joshua, not saying that he will. Maybe he's got a different game plan. Maybe he got some tricks we don't know about. But if you use that jab on Joshua the way you used it on Jennings, you're just gonna get countered.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You might get countered the way that Julian Williams got countered when he fought Jamal Charlo. That's how I look at it. Like, you might actually get beat to the punch. We know you're the older guy, and we see how you use that jab. It's a defensive tool.
And on top of that, and on top of that, AJ is the type to once he does counter, he's not the type to just a pop shot counter. He counters in combination as well. So that's where I see the trouble coming. I see, like that pulling jab, being laid out there, countered. But on top of that, and another thing I want to at least add to AJ's game plan on where he should definitely do better is if he can apply some type of mobility, and we've seen him in training. That's why I get upset when I hear the robotic terms with Anthony Joshua.
It's too soon to call them cliches, but those are just go-to criticisms that don't make a lot of sense. If Anthony Joshua wanted to be a moving target, he would be. It's just that this guy's punch is so big, he hasn't really had to be a moving target yet. You know what I'm saying? He's usually the guy coming after you.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know that this fight is going to be different from that. I feel like if anybody's going to be a moving target in this fight, it's going to be Vladimir Klitschko. And he can be that as well. We've seen that from him. He can be a moving target. I'm not calling him Erislandy Lara, but he can move around for a heavyweight. It's just that with the way this guy employs that jab, it's a defensive tool, and we know. I don't like calling Vladimir chinny. I feel that that's a bit contentious given this guy's reign. But I'll just say I don't think he can eat a straight right hand from Anthony Joshua. I don't think he could do that.
No,
what the hell is he gonna do?
Yeah, at least not for a full round. I at least say. But we'll definitely revisit this breakdown later on when we got a full assembled hosting team, and. But I guess to close things out, man, and this was kind of not fun anymore, man. Now that Evans, passed out, Chavez Jr. versus Canelo Alvarez, has been on the lips of, the not promoter, but I believe who was it? Eric Molina, or I might be saying that wrong. Not Eric Molina, but God damn it. Basically, one of the managers at Golden Boy Promotions has really been talking up.
About Eric Gomez.
There we go. Eric Gomez has really been talking up this fight, with Chavez Jr. at 165 for May 7th.
Well, look, man, I'm gonna say this shit now, okay? Because I'm really sick of Canelo. I'm tired of talking about him. I'm tired of the obvious controversy. I'm tired of I'm just so tired of everything involving Canelo Alvarez and Triple G. It is so fucking obvious that this kid don't want to. But even he don't want to fight him, or Golden Boy don't want to fight him. But whatever the case is, you wasn't a middleweight 2 fights ago. Now you're a super middleweight. Come on, dog. You can't just sweep it under the rug anymore.
You can't just put the wool over people's eyes like this. Peep game, bro. We know what the fuck this is. It's just a line of just shit. You know what I mean?
It's like, do I have to say it? It's to that point where it's like, dog, do I really gotta say this shit? You don't see the contradiction here? This kid was not a middleweight after he beat Cotto. He fights a fucking welterweight, then he fights a fucking who the fuck in Liam Smith, and now he's a super middleweight? Well, if you're a super middleweight, then why aren't you fighting Gennady Golovkin? You have to know that that's the fight that everybody's talking about. You have to know that that's the fight that everybody wants to see. But you want to fight Chavez at 165?
And whatever happened to I needed to get acclimated to 160, and in the process of getting acclimated, we fight a welterweight, and then after that fight, we tell him that we don't play any fucking games and invite Golovkin into the ring, and actually prove that we do fuck around, and we actually hand over our belts, just to avoid the fight.
In fact, look, I thought that it all really ended when he I honestly thought that when he vacated his title, at least for me. That showed me everything I needed to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That he don't want to fight. If he don't want to fight, then they don't want him to fight. Because you just vacated your title, and you know that everybody's talking about this fight. You know that this fight is at a fever pitch. And everybody wants this fight. But you vacated your title to get out of that fight. There's no other way around it.
And a
lot of people want to talk about business. You're telling me that this is a business-oriented move, and you turn around and fight a guy that doesn't have an American profile with any of the boxing communities out here. Nobody knows who Roy Jones didn't even know who Liam Smith was. He never heard of him.
And the bad thing is even a part of that excuse is like, well, titles don't define me. Well, I had to find the weakest link to get a title. So it's just one contradiction after another.
Yeah, it's so much like, dog, like, this is why I don't want to talk about, because he has what's left of his fan base, whoever the fuck these guys are. They're not rooting for Canelo because they like boxing. They're rooting for him because they think he's cute. It's like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do I got to tell you? Do I have to tell you that this guy fought Kermit Cintrone, Sugar Shane Mosley, Floyd Mayweather, Miguel Cotto, Alfonso Gomez, Josecito Lopez? Bunch of little motherfuckers, man. Those are little guys. I shouldn't have to tell you that. You should know that. You're a Canelo fan. And what is it that's important when you support this guy?
The bad thing is like they can't even defend it. They can't defend it. So the only thing left to say is, but Golovkin. It's like, I don't want to hear. Look, you could. It's like, I don't want to hear what Golovkin's doing. And even if that's, yeah, it's like, okay, so we're gonna.
What the fuck do you call fighting Sugar Shane Mosley over 2 losses and a draw? The fight he had before fighting Canelo Alvarez was at 147 with Pacquiao. It's like, come on, man. Like, you got to stop. People have got to stop defending this kind of bullshit in boxing. If you guys were really behind Canelo and you guys really felt that he's going to kick Golovkin's ass, then you go to his Instagram or you go to his Twitter and you tell him, hey, fight Golovkin, fuck Chavez. Nobody gives a fuck about Chavez.
Look,
I don't give a fuck about Chavez.
Look, I don't know if you remember this, but not even 20 minutes after Canelo announced that he was vacating the title, he had to shut down he had to enable commenting on his Twitter because of so much trolling that he was getting. Like, it was on overload. He had to completely disable all commenting on his Instagram and his Twitter.
Idea.
It was that bad. So he knows the bullshit, and it's a shame because I feel like, I give him the only thing I will give him as even a slight of pass is the leash that Golden Boy is putting on him, because I don't know if you saw, but I posted the video of on First Take that Oscar De La Hoya did with Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith, where they grilled his ass up.
Well, yeah, but I mean, look at who the statements are. They're coming from Oscar. Oscar's willing to say anything, man. I mean, if people haven't grasped that yet, that you can't drink Oscar's Kool-Aid because it's spiked. Mm-hmm. I mean, he could say anything and turn right the fuck around and fight Sean fucking Porter or somebody.
I wouldn't put it at this point. I wouldn't even put it past them. Look, they're still talking about Pacquiao, which is just shameful.
Exactly. Pacquiao is still in the conversation, along with Chavez Jr. is Manny Pacquiao. So you got to consider that this thing could go any old kind of fucking way. You can't have stock in what Oscar says, because Oscar will say any old fucking thing.
God, and then to top it off, Stephen A. tried to say, like, I want you to promise that Golovkin versus Canelo is going to happen in September. Oscar said he puts up his boxing or his promoter's license on the line, and I made the comments like, well, that sounds like a junkie putting his last bit of jewelry on pawning it just so he could score another.
Pretty much.
So, yeah, that's really all it is. It's just running game again, and until we'll see whatever his next move is. And the only thing,
Georgie, the only people that are supporting Canelo and Oscar are jilted Ward fans who are mad that Ward didn't get to fight a middleweight. That's all it is. That's the only people, along with the fanboys, the weirdos. I only see 2 factions defending Canelo's fuckery. That's the guys who wanted GGG to fight Ward, and that's the Canelo fanboys. Neither of them make any kind of sense.
It's a damn shame that really, like, objectivity is just getting thrown out the window like this. But we're gonna have to wrap things up. This is a pretty lengthy podcast. I think this probably is like the longest one. Or it looks like we're almost up to an hour at this point. Might be even past it. But
Canelo has that effect.
Yeah, and unfortunately, man, Ibn wasn't part of it. We gotta get him. We gotta get him the full-fledged debate.
I'm glad he fell asleep because he was going to defend Canelo
Yeah, that's why we're a little so amped up about it. But Julius, you got any?
This podcast would have been 2 hours.
Yeah,
if he was awake.
It definitely would have. But you got anybody you want to shout out? Any? Obviously, let me get a big shout out to Ring IQ, aka War IQ. Man, shit's going down. Cutthroat out there.
But let's not promote the bullshit, because if there's one thing Ring IQ is not about, it's not about the bullshit.
No, we are not
about the boxing.
About the boxing. It's about the IQ. Really, that should be highlighted. Not that casuals are not welcomed, but if you're coming to a place to learn, if you want something to learn, this is your place.
Other than that, I'll say the overview of Ring IQ. It's not that you can't go there. It's that it's up to you whether or not you can stay there.
Just don't
We'll let you in.
Just don't be confident. Don't be confident in ignorance. Just say that. Don't be confident, and if you are, slightly skeptical on an issue, don't come full body with it. Come to learn. But
don't be afraid to ask questions, man. You can ask questions. Just don't pretend you know something that you don't know.
That's right. Georgie Dampier on Twitter, G.Alé Dampier on Facebook, Georgie Dampier on YouTube, obviously, and G.Alé 6 on Instagram. Julius, take it away.
Ring IQ Boxing Talk on Twitter, Ring IQ Boxing Talk on YouTube, Ring IQ Boxing Talk on Facebook. Shout out to all the admins.
Bo.
Fucking shout out to Joe Smith, man. Shit.
Yeah,
man. Kid can't get a break.
Hell no. Yeah, he actually just became a member on Ring IQ, so shout out to him.
Hey, shout out to him, man. He deserves the fucking credit, man. He 2 upsets in 1 year. How many people get to say that?
Hey, man, that man's living the fucking Cinderella Man 2.0. So shout out to him. And catch us. Really, we should do another one this week. It's only Monday. I say we should come back.
Man,
probably
on
Wednesday.
We'll come back on Wednesday night, and we'll hash this shit out with Evan. That's going to be the Canelo show.
Definitely.
I think we should have a Canelo podcast.
Definitely.
Canelo show.
Absolutely. All right, till next time, guys. Peace.
Fuck Lara.